Postal Inspection Service Miami Division. With me, I am very glad to have some of our partners. We have Colonel Chris Rule from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. We have the Honorable Susie Lopez from the State Attorney's Office, 13th Circuit. We've got David Walker from the Federal Bureau of Investigations. We've got Roger Hamburg, the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida. And we have Major Mesmer from the Tampa Police Department. So I want to thank them for being here. My last name is Rojo, R-O-J-O. You probably have it in the paperwork if you want to use it. There is no more important mission for members of the Postal Inspection Service than protecting employees from crime and violence. I want to thank U.S. Attorney Roger Hamburg and our partners for the efforts of the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Middle District of Florida. From fiscal year 2021 through October 2023, that's 3 years, we have arrested 12 subjects in 7 different letter carrier robberies in this district. I would also like to thank our partners that are here with us for helping us get to a resolution and helping us investigate these cases from the very beginning as a partnership. There has been, as you know, an increase in letter carrier robberies nationwide, where criminals are targeting letter carriers for their arrow and modified arrow lock keys. Criminals use these keys to steal mail from secure receptacles in order to commit financial crimes, including and ultimately check altering and check washing. In May of this year, the Postal Service announced an update to what is being called the Project Safe Delivery, which is a national multi-strategy campaign to combat carrier robberies and mail theft, This campaign includes prevention, education, engineering, enforcement, and yes, money, reward money, which I will talk about. Some of the highlights of Project Safe Deliveries are: we have had in the past year what we call the surges, and that is where we send resources from other divisions of the inspection service to certain cities like Chicago, San Francisco, Ohio, where they also are having this problem. And we use our resources for investigative, for protective, for follow-up, and for prevention. And so we've done that over the past year, and some of those have led to 700 investigative enforcement actions, 109 arrests for robberies, and more than 530 arrests for mail thefts. That's what these surges have produced in Ohio, San Francisco, Chicago. The Postal Service is taking a solution based on electronics for this problem of these arrow keys, which are used to commit mail theft. It's an old system, the keys. They've been around for a while. In fact, there's a specific federal statutes for possessing these keys unlawfully. That's how long they've been around. But it's time for the Postal Service to do what they've been doing, which is an electronic solution. They're coming up, and I cannot talk specifically about what they are, but they will be a process in where if a key is taken, it can be deactivated and it will no longer be able to be used to open up the mailboxes. So once you de-incentivize the key or make the lock impenetrable, then this problem should tamper down. So the Postal Service is ongoing with the replacement of arrow locks and keys. To date, they have replaced more than 6,500 antiquated arrow locks throughout the nation, and they plan to deploy an additional 42,500 electronic locks nationwide. Now, this is a process that obviously takes time, because you driving here today, you probably pass by several, not just collection boxes, but cluster boxes at neighborhoods, commercial buildings, residential buildings. They all have a box for the carrier to put their mail in, and so those will all have to be replaced. So that is a time process, a time-taking process. And then when it comes to money, I think what's important, and the press, you should have this with you, and if not, you can look at Project Safe Delivery online, and that is the increase in rewards that have gone substantially higher than they used to be for some of these crimes. And I'm just going to focus on 2 of them, but you have a chart with you, and that is robbery. If anybody provides information that could lead to the arrest and conviction of someone who commits one of these robberies, you can get up to $150,000. That's a very hefty amount. And also, talking about the keys, if you look on the second page of there is an up to $100,000 reward for anybody providing information that leads to the conviction of someone possessing mail, stolen mail, or any of these keys. So I want to thank again Mr. Hamburg and all of our partners up here from the U.S. Attorney's Office and our local and state partners. We will continue to put up the pressure and put potential perpetrators on notice. If you attack postal employees, steal the mail, or commit other postal crimes, we will bring you to justice. We ask that the public assist us with our mission. If you see something, say something. Letter carriers are part of our community, public servants who blend into our neighborhoods 6 and sometimes 7 days a week. Please keep an eye on them and report any suspicious activity to police immediately. Thank you. I will now pass it on to U.S. Attorney Roger Hamburg.
Well, thank you very much, Assistant Inspector in charge, and thank you for having me here today. We are here today because two groups of criminals recently robbed two postal carriers at gunpoint here in Hillsborough County. Although these two crimes are not connected, there's a lot that these cases have in common. For starters, both of these robberies occurred in September. In one of them, 3 individuals worked together to rob a postal carrier on September 5th. This robbery took place at an apartment complex on Hidden River Drive in Hillsborough County. One of the conspirators used a firearm to rob the postal carrier of the arrow keys that were in his possession. All 3 of the conspirators then drove away together in an effort to evade law enforcement. In the second case, 2 individuals worked together to rob a postal carrier on September 21st. This robbery took place on West Australia Street in Hillsborough County. One of the conspirators used a firearm to rob the postal carrier of 2 arrow keys that were in his possession, and those 2 conspirators drove away together in an effort to evade law enforcement. Although these armed robberies were committed by different perpetrators on different days in different parts of Hillsborough County, the goal was the same: to use a firearm to put a postal carrier in fear for his or her life for the purpose of robbing those postal carriers of arrow keys. Arrow keys are not ordinary keys. As you heard, they can be used to open postal service mailboxes. It is for that reason that they are sometimes the focus of armed robberies. The individuals who rob carriers of those keys seek to use the keys to steal mail or to sell them to someone who's going to use those keys to steal mail. Another thing that these cases have in common was the immediate response of law enforcement. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, the Tampa Police Department, the United States Postal Inspection Service, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Each of these agencies have done an outstanding job of investigating these cases. No stone was left unturned, and every lead was pursued. And that leads me to another thing that these 2 cases have in common, which is that the perpetrators did not get away with it. Because of the excellent work of the law enforcement agencies you see before you today, the perpetrators of these armed robberies have been identified, they have been federally charged, and they have either been arrested or had an arrest warrant issued for their arrest. In total, 5 defendants have now been charged in connection with these 2 robberies. With respect to the September 5th armed robbery, Jordan Brown, Jordan Murray, and Darren Underwood have been federally charged with armed robbery of the United States Postal Service carrier. As for the September 21st armed robbery, Christopher Raymond and Andre Hilton have been federally charged with armed robbery of the United States Postal Mail Carrier and brandishing a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence. These cases are pending in federal court in Tampa. All but 1 defendant have been arrested. Of the 4 defendants who have been arrested, 3 are in custody and 1 is on bond. And the 5th defendant has an active arrest warrant for his arrest. These cases are being prosecuted in federal court by Assistant United States Attorney Alyssa Spergel, who's done an outstanding job on these cases. These 2 cases have a lot in common with each other. They also have a lot in common with other cases prosecuted by my office. The investigation and prosecution of armed robberies of postal carriers is a top priority of the United States Attorney's Office. Postal carriers are public servants. They are entrusted to ensure the safe delivery of the mail, and they serve our community through the important work that they do. But their jobs sometimes put them in harm's way. You heard some of the statistics of the number of cases that my office has done. Over the past year, my office has successfully prosecuted 10 defendants who have robbed postal carriers for their arrow keys using either firearms or other dangerous weapons. Each of those cases ended up with the same result. The perpetrator was identified, federally charged, arrested, convicted, and sentenced to federal prison. The reason that the result has been the same in each of these cases is due to the outstanding work of the law enforcement agencies that have investigated them. This is no accident. As a United States Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for 35 counties here in Florida. In addition to prosecuting cases in federal court, my office partners with our sheriff's offices, police departments, state attorneys, and state and federal law enforcement agencies so that we can work together to identify the most pressing violent crime problems in our community and develop comprehensive solutions to address them. We call this our Project Safe Neighborhood strategy. Launched by the Justice Department in 2001, Project Safe Neighborhoods is built on several core principles: fostering trust and legitimacy in our community, supporting community-based organizations that stop crime from happening in the first place, setting focused and strategic enforcement priorities, and measuring the results of our efforts. The federal charges in these two cases are perfect examples of what the close coordination and teamwork called for by Project Safe Neighborhoods will yield. Methodical investigations resulting in timely charges that will serve to protect the community, promote public safety, reduce violent crime, do justice for the victims, and hold perpetrators accountable for their offenses. The allegations contained in the criminal complaints that I've summarized here today that have been filed in federal court, well, they're just that, they're allegations. And Brown, Murray, Underwood, Raymond, and Hilton are presumed innocent unless until proven guilty. I want to commend the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, the Tampa Police Department, the United States Postal Inspection Service, and the FBI for their excellent work on these cases. And I want to commend State Attorney Susie Lopez and her office for her partnership and their partnership on these important cases. The State Attorney's Office and my office take a team approach to prosecution here in Hillsborough County. On a regular basis, federal prosecutors from my office and prosecutors from the State Attorney's Office meet with local, state, and federal investigators. The purpose of these meetings is to work together to find the appropriate court to prosecute violent crime cases so that we can ensure that we're doing everything we can to reduce violent crime in Hillsborough County. I thank State Attorney Lopez for being here today and for her partnership on these cases and the many others that we work together. Let this be a message to anyone who seeks to commit an armed robbery of a postal carrier. Robbing a postal carrier is not a path to riches. It is a path to investigation, arrest, indictment, conviction, and prison. As you can see from the law enforcement agencies here today, you will be investigated, and these agencies will use every lawful tool to hold you accountable for your crimes. And if you violated federal law, the United States Attorney's Office will seek to hold you accountable and prosecute you in federal court. We are united together in our mission to keep this community safe. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to FBI Special Agent in Charge, David Walker.
Hey, good morning. If I could highlight one thing from this investigation, it would be the cooperation. And when you see the partners up here, everyone came together as a team to make sure justice was served. The FBI's role in this particular part was in sort of cell phone exploitation, which allowed us to track movements and locations of the subjects. But what the FBI did really isn't important. What is important is the contributions of everyone up here that ensured that the justice is done. The relationships and the partnerships we used in this investigation, we're going to continue to use, and we're going to continue to use the same techniques to help keep the Tampa area safe. Thank you.
All right. From whoever you want.
I was just gonna ask, this is clearly a very serious crime. Can you just talk a little bit about that this is a federal crime when people are doing this kind of thing, and it's just you talked about the prosecution and the penalties they could face. I mean, it's a much more serious crime than maybe these people realize.
Well, and that's one of the reasons we want to get this message out there, because these are federal offenses. Robbing postal carriers is a federal offense. Using a firearm in connection with those crimes will subject you to increased minimum mandatory penalties, which these defendants we expect will be facing. And there's steps that the Postal Service is taking to deal with this, from a technology standpoint to stop this from happening. But our message is we've had 15 defendants over the past year who've engaged in these crimes. And one of the things that I can say, I'm one of 93 U.S. attorneys, is the law enforcement relationships in these communities are strong. And what someone should expect who engages in these crimes is immediate law enforcement response and close coordination between the federal and state prosecutors. And I'm very happy to have State Attorney Lopez here with us today, because it sends a united message that, because these are state law violations as well, and whether they're prosecuted in state court or federal court, we are united in holding these defendants accountable and doing justice for the victims in these cases.
Are you guys aware of any mail that was actually taken? Was it recovered? Are you aware of anything of that nature, and can you give us some value?
You mean in these particular cases?
Yes.
Some mail, I'm getting the nod that there wasn't that much mail that was recovered from the subjects when they were apprehended for the robberies. Just the keys.
Not that much, or I'm sorry to be specific. I'm just.
Yeah, so the robbers for the keys, some of those who were charged and arrested either had possession of the key or were charged for conspiring to steal the key but not have the key, but no possession of actual mail. Who do you want?
I have a question for you,
Yes.
Assistant Postal Inspector in charge.
Yeah.
I wanted to refer to the Office of Inspector General's report that came
Yes.
out on or around October 1st. And they talked about the challenges that the Postal Inspector Service has in actually getting a handle on this crime, a staffing and a training issue. What has your agency done to respond to that?
Well, and yes, the report was done by the Office of Inspector General, who also partners with us in these cases as well, is accurate. Resources and staffing is always an issue for anything, and I believe every agency up here would probably nod their head and say that they could all use more resources and staffing. But the approach that I talked about earlier, the surge approach, which is targeting those areas where the most of these robberies are happening with additional resources, with additional security measures, and also, we're enhancing what we've had working for a while, a task force officer program. We're now enhancing that from just beyond narcotics to go into a financial crimes and violent crimes task force officers that we're bringing onto the agency. So we're using that and leveraging our partners in the multiple cities, sheriff's offices, FBI agents, leveraging our partners so that we are a bigger agency and have more resources to tackle these.
The report indicated that your agency needs about $1 million more to be able to effectively fight this crime. Are you beefing up staff? Is that what you're saying? I hear you're saying you're beefing up training. Are you beefing up staff in these areas?
You're saying that we need $1 million more?
That's the Office of Inspector General felt that you guys need.
$1 million will hardly get you anything, but yeah, I don't know that number is maybe accurate, but yes, our increasing of our resources is continuous as always. We're always hiring, sending students to the academy to come out to be inspectors. We're hiring agents from other agencies that are looking to move around. We're constantly in the hiring phase. I'm not sure about the 1 million number, because I don't know that will, $1 million really makes a big difference in a lot. But
I'm just reading it.
yeah, I know. Okay, but yes, continuing getting resources and making ourselves larger with our partners.
And I do have another question. As far as the suspect and the suspects named in the September 21st incident, which I believe is South Tampa, Mr. Raymond, Hilton, and those two, I know we talked about some have been arrested, some are wanted. Are those two, Mr. Raymond and Andre Hilton, have they been arrested?
They had their initial appearances in South Florida, and they'll next have their court appearances here in Tampa Federal Court. The defendant who has not been arrested is Darren Underwood. in the September 5th case.
And have they been booked, those two, Mr. Raymond and Mr. Hilton, have they been booked into the Hillsborough County Jail yet, or they're still in South Florida?
I don't know where they are in the transportation process, but we can try to find that out for you.
Okay, thank you.
This has to have had just a real impact on postal workers, on mail carriers overall. Can you just talk about, like, just over the last several months as the increase in these crimes have happened, how they've dealt with this mindset and what's been a traumatic situation for some of them?
Well, yes, as the U.S. Attorney said in his remarks, these are public servants doing a job that's a public necessity, and they're government employees, and it should be a safe environment for them. And if you think about it, letter carriers throughout the country go into every neighborhood every day, 6 days a week, and for sometimes 7 days a week. And they should be safe. And safety of letter carriers is the reason why the inspection service exists. And so we know that it could be harrowing for them to think about potentially these crimes happening to them. And obviously, we're taking our measures not just with enforcement, but with prevention, not just for the employees, but prevention for regular citizens when it comes to how to handle their mail, whether they put it in a collection box overnight, which leaves it susceptible to theft, whether they put it in their mailbox overnight, which leaves it susceptible to theft, just to use prevention coupled with enforcement to try to make their job as safe as it should be, as safe as their job should be.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
So not for the two cases we have here, but we have had a case where a postal carrier ended up resigning her position as a result of being a victim in one of these offenses. I mean, these cases and these crimes have a terrible impact on the victims. And one of the things we're going to be doing after this press conference is the lead prosecutor, Alyssa Spergel, who's with me here today, we're going to meet with the victims in these cases because I want them to know from the very top level of the United States Attorney's Office that we care about them and we want to do everything in our power to do justice for them because we understand the impact this has on the victims in our cases, and we're going to do everything that we can to vindicate them, but also protect other mail carriers from this happening.
More questions?
Sir, can I have?
Me, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No? He's much taller and better looking. I'm gonna let you pick on him. Yeah.
This has been a national epidemic since 2021.
Yes.
2022 figures show that last year's number of postal carrier robberies had quadrupled since 2019, and it was a record-breaking year, unfortunately. Why are we sitting here now? I mean, have you guys been working on this for 2 years? Because this has been a big problem for a long time.
Oh, absolutely, but no, I mean, there's been, in 93 judicial districts, there's been arrests and cases made, and there's been press conferences, and there's been, all activities going on continuously. It just so happened that we're here today because U.S. Attorney Roger Hamburg wanted to highlight these particular cases in our district here and what we have going on. But there has been, I think earlier I talked about the 109 arrests for robberies in the past few months and the 500 plus arrests for mail theft. This is, we haven't been waiting till now. We've been working on them. It's just as we're getting along and making progress and making cases, some of the districts want to make sure that they get the message out to the community, especially at this time of year with the holidays coming around and an increase in mail activity, just to get the word out, to get the warning out from the U.S. Attorney's Office is what we've been doing. But we've been continuously, as an agency nationwide, working all of those.
Thank you. Well, congratulations on your efforts and the success you've had this year.
It's all because of them, so.
Last question? Anybody? All right, thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you, thank you.